In this lesson, I want to talk about UPC codes, FNSKUs, and a whole bunch of other acronyms that no one really knows what they mean. Kidding a little bit, but this is a very confusing topic. I'm going to try to break it down as clearly as possible. When I talk about UPC, some of that acronym may ring a bell for some of you guys. You oftentimes see them on pretty much every package that you're buying, and they look like this, right? These little barcodes, and there's a set of numbers below them. And actually on this one, you probably can't really see it, but it even says UPC. Now UPC is the industry standard code that is recognized in essentially all of the big retailers' databases, right? Like Walmart could scan this, or Target could scan this, or Amazon, or whoever else, and they typically know then the product that's related to that specific UPC or that barcode. That part's fairly simple. When you are listing a product on Amazon, they require you to have what they call a product ID, or you'll refer to it otherwise referred to as like a GTIN, okay? Or there's a long list of a whole bunch of acronyms right here. Now, all these except the bottom one, ASIN, all of these are numbers that you get from a centralized agency that's in charge of these numbers, okay? The official agency that's in charge of this is GS1. You can find them at gs1.org. What you can do is you can purchase your, let's just call GTIN. We're just going to refer to them as UPC because there's a few different numbers that are all types of GTIN codes, but UPC is the most common. So I'm just going to refer to it as a UPC for the rest of this particular lesson. So you can purchase your UPC directly from the source, and that is the highest quality way to get it. It costs $250 for 10 of them with a $50 renewal fee every year. So as you can see, these are relatively expensive. When you go to add a UPC on Amazon, they tell you this right. The validity of this is checked against the GS1 database. If your product is not registered with the GS1, then the linked ASIN will be suppressed, and it may result in the removal of your creation privileges. It's very clear that Amazon wants all of its sellers to use UPCs that are registered directly with the GS1 database, and this would be best practice. This is what I personally do, okay? That being said, I know a lot of sellers actually purchase their UPC codes from a third party. Their argument is, let me show you something real quick. When you search for a UPC in the GS1 database, so let's just go right in here. I'm just gonna enter this Canon number right off this pack, and I'm gonna show you something here. All right, so I'm gonna enter this, search. What you see here is that this UPC is registered to Canon, okay? Now, the thing about this that some sellers argue is that just because this UPC is registered to Canon, they don't necessarily know who owns the brand that's making this particular item. Some sellers will argue that it's kind of like unfair that Amazon's doing that, or there's no way for them really to know for sure who owns these. As a result, some sellers choose to purchase from third-party websites like this. Like this one's called Instant UPC Codes. As you can see, 10 of them here are only $20, and you never have to renew them. What these websites claim is that all of these codes were purchased back in the day before they had a yearly renewal rate and before they were registered to specific companies. So these websites claim that these are real, that they are official, that there's nothing wrong with using them. They were just purchased before you had to start registering to certain companies. So now you're probably thinking okay, well, what do I do with all this data now, Greg? You're telling me that Amazon doesn't allow it, but some people do it, but some people don't. As a rough rule of thumb, I'd say if you're getting into this business and you are very serious about taking it seriously and growing this into something substantial, I would go ahead and I would just eat the cost right now. Just pay the $250, get 10 codes from GS1, pay the $50 a year to renew them, and you can sleep easy at night and you never have to worry about your listing getting suppressed. If you're on a tighter budget and you're cool with kind of breaking the Amazon rules, to be honest, and you're comfortable kind of like taking that risk, then you could choose to go for something like purchasing them off instant UPC codes. And of course, the result of that is you're only going to pay, you can just buy one for $10 or 10 of them for $20, and it's going to be significantly cheaper. So I wanted to give you all that information so that you could make your own decision or an own judgment. That would be like all the information floating around the internet, all encapsulated into just a few minutes, okay? I think now you understand UPC codes. And again, the goal of UPC codes, I guess, would be twofold. One, you could put them on your packaging, and then Walmart and Target and everyone else can scan them. But more importantly for us, what directly relates to us is we have to enter our UPC code right here in order to create our listing on Amazon. Now that you understand what UPC codes are, you'll oftentimes hear something referred to as an FNSKU or FNSKU, specifically as it relates to Amazon. And when you look at an FNSKU, it looks very similar. It's a barcode. It has some numbers on it, or alphanumeric string. I think they always start with X00, and that's your FNSKU. When you're selling on Amazon, really the FNSKU is what Amazon scans to register in their system. They could scan the UPC. That would tell them what kind or what product it is, but they wouldn't know who was sending it into their system by just scanning the UPC. That's why that's why you're kind of required, except for this one thing called commingled inventory, which I don't recommend, to have the FNSKU, and you have to actually put that over your UPC. All right. So I recommend just go with the FNSKU on your packaging, not the UPC. The UPC, you can get it from the legitimate source, GS1, never have to worry about it. Alternatively, you could buy it from a third party. You're taking a certain level of risk. I've never heard of anyone getting their listing suspended using that, but it probably does happen. I don't know for sure. The only goal of the UPC is to create your listing on Amazon. Once you can create a listing, then you can get your FNSKUs. If you're only selling on Amazon, which I recommend for the majority of you, I encourage you to just print your FNSKU directly on the box. Do not print the UPC on the box. That way you don't have to put a label over it. In order to get the FNSKU, after we create a listing, which is gonna be included in a different module, you get your FNSKU by going to print item labels from this dropdown. And then print item labels. And then after you've done that, you'll have the barcode that looks just like this. And this is the FNSKU barcode. And you actually don't need the text. All you need is just the barcode itself and the X00 number. You would give this part right here to your package designer or to your factory. They would print that barcode directly on your packaging, and then you don't have to worry about putting a sticker over the UPC, okay? So I know that was a little bit confusing. I used a lot of acronyms, but I was trying to explain it as clearly as possible because it's definitely a point of confusion for a lot of people. And in the next lesson, we'll talk more about the package requirements, what's required in addition to the FNSKU being printed or placed with the label on the packaging. So I'll see you in there.